Is Portugal in the house? Let's see Portugal. Nice. So we have Europe. What about Jamaica and USA? Nice. Rachel representing for Jamaica and USA. Now, since we're in Trinidad and Tobago, Rachel, I couldn't leave out your Jamaican heritage. I was very excited to see that we have a Jamaican in the group.
I'm just Jamaican. I'm not American. I filmed it in the States.
You filmed it in the States. So your film is a US film, but you're Jamaican.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that. And are you based in the US now?
And I was at school in the US before, and I'm at school in Canada now.
Okay, nice. All right, so we have people coming from all perspectives. How do you think that your heritage informs your art? Let's start with Gonçalo and Michaela. How do you think your heritage, as in your Portuguese culture, informs your art?
Well, our film is very inspired in the pagan heritage in the north of Portugal. So
I think it's something that we've always been interested in, and finding out where our culture came from and digging that up. And it's a fascination and interest that we've had for a long time. And this film came from that, really. It was an interest that eventually turned into a film, just very naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that religion plays a big role in your culture? Because it definitely was a strong visual presence in your film and your storytelling. Yeah,
it's a big influence, because we've been Christian and Catholic for centuries and centuries, and it's intrinsic to our culture. You can't really separate the two things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a follow-up question on Moss. Moss is the film that we're speaking of now, and it's by Portuguese filmmakers Alexandra and Gonçalo. And so, would you consider this an experimental narrative film?
Yes, we think it's an experiment, because we gathered ideas and tried to make an experience out of them.
Yes, initially it was going to be a documentary, but with the pandemic, we started to develop more of a fictional narrative, and now we think it's more experimental in some way, because we mix some documentary aesthetics with fiction aesthetics, and so yes.
Said you put together something to create an experience that would make us feel, because that's definitely what you did. You have a great narrative there that, even if it isn't linear and conventional, it still does what film does best, which is to draw out emotions and to pull us into characters. So congratulations on achieving that. Darielle, you're very welcome. Darielle, let's talk about your film. So Darielle out to Trinidad and Tobago, you made a very self-reflective film around the time that our lives got turned upside down by the pandemic. Talk to us a bit about what made you brave enough to expose your inner thoughts through this film.
Right. Well, it's not something I initially set out doing. So I created this film for a course that I did in UE for a documentary. And the original, I had a completely different idea for a project that I wanted to do, and I was working on that. But because of the pandemic, I couldn't continue working on the film. And it really forced me to be creative with the resources that I had. So what I had was just myself and my DSLR camera, and that is what I had to work with. And so that's how the film came to be. But the original film that I wanted to work on was completely different.
And if you had to choose a category to put this film in, I would say it's sort of an autobiographical documentary. Would you agree?
I would say So in some regard, maybe like I would say like a reflective documentary or something
Okay.
like
All
that.
right. So there's a lot of you in it, and I want to congratulate you for sharing yourself with the audience, and I want to congratulate everyone again for being part of TTFF 21. You're officially selected, and I think you should be very proud, and I'm very excited that I get the chance to see your films and talk with you. So, Rachel, you presented a very interesting narrative piece about that explored a lot of themes hinged around an actor who was rehearsing with the director who was a bit demanding. And we got a lot of themes in there, including peer judgment. Um, we got a lot of hints at relationships, and we start to be able to question whether or not they're appropriate. What was the inspiration for your story, and did you write a script? Those are my two questions: inspiration and script.
The inspiration, I guess, like when I was in high school, we didn't really have much of a theater community or drama. Like my school wasn't very artistic at all. So when I went to university, I was kind of exposed to sort of a lot of my friends had a theater background or they're interested in it, and a lot of the dynamics were kind of new to me, but they're not really that new because that's the thing. It was just like a kind of like a power thing, and not to like circle back to the previous question about heritage, but it's just like when you're in Jamaica, you're kind of very conscious about like gender, like how some people are expected to behave in relation to each other based on who's a man and who's a woman. And even if I went to a school that's a lot of the students said that they wanted to be sort of progressive or forward thinking, the way that their behavior was kind of the same. And so I just kind of was really interested in that kind of tension where it's like, as an artist or you're really committed to the work that you're doing, but it's costing you because you haven't actually entered into an environment that's really hospitable to artistry. You're just in like a very sort of demanding relationship to your work and a demanding relationship to the people around you. So yeah, just kind of like exploring that kind of discomfort, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I did write it. I wrote it when I was, I think, my second year, and then I shot it when I was in my last.
Oh, nice, lovely. And so one of the things that I think really resonates with me as an audience member, and it's in keeping with the themes that you're talking about, is that the actor, the central character, her voice wasn't respected on stage when it came to her art. Like she wasn't able to voice her opinion about how the art should be expressed, and she was working with a very sort of top-down director who was like, do it my way or the highway. And so is that something you've experienced in your life?
Yes. I mean, because that's the thing, is like, I think personally, like, I guess like my creative philosophy is that, again, it's supposed to be collaborative and you have to be respectful and you kind of like are responsible for the environment that you make. And so it's kind of difficult, I guess, because I end up, when I am sort of, I suppose, in a subordinate position or, I'm supposed to defer to somebody in authority. If their philosophy is entirely different, we usually clash in a very sort of like, I wouldn't say dramatic way, but it has been in the past.
Yeah. Well,
I tend to just be like, I don't vibe with this at all, and I think it's ridiculous. So that's, I guess, something I've kind of had to learn how to be a little more diplomatic. But yeah.
Yeah, and drama is a great source of inspiration for the work that all of us do in this group, right? It's a great source of inspiration for your films. We were going to go to Kaaria, but it looks like we may have lost him again. So I'm going to circle back to our Portuguese filmmakers. Can you talk to me about how long it took you to make the film from start to finish? How long did it take to make the film from start to finish?
It started around March 2020.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We shot it in about June,
Mm-hmm.
and then the
1 week
post-production.
of shooting.
Yeah, then we felt like we still needed some more stuff. So in the next few months, we edited, we shot some more stuff. We were working on the film for some time, and then I guess it's probably like 9 months in total until the final version.
Got it. And you, Rachel?
It's actually a really complicated story. I'll try and keep it brief. I wrote it my second year, and I didn't do anything with it until my fourth. And I had to do everything with no budget, absolutely no money. And so we had to do it within a morning. We had to shoot everything in a morning, and then it was my mistake with the footage. I kind of lost a lot of the files for 2 years. So I had to edit it last year, and I had to learn how to edit. And that was a very sort of, quite a learning experience. So I think it took a grand total of maybe 5 years.
5 years.
On and off, because I mean, yeah.
5 years on and off. Worth it. Worth every year. Darielle?
So I guess like pre-production, it took about like 2 weeks, I'd say. Shooting and editing, editing was about 2 or 3 days, because I was working with a lot of footage that I already had, and I was just like picking it up as I went along. So I can't give an exact time, but it was probably like a few weeks, but 2 weeks of really thinking about it and editing it.
Right.
That was like the 3 days. And also I was just taking things from like my diary, so that was just like stuff that I like picked up along the way, but it's not like I was writing for the film necessarily. So it's
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. And it all came together perfectly. So, Michaela and Gonçalo, I'm interested to know, would you be interested in doing a feature in the future?
Yes, sure. But it's very difficult here in Portugal because there are not many features are produced per year, and you need to
We need
I'm sorry,
to
my
apply
English.
for funding.
Yes.
This is very good.
Funding and applying for funding is challenging, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very challenging, and we have a lot of people competing for not that much
Money.
that much possibility. So
Understood. Kaaria, can we hear you? No, unfortunately. So I just want to let everybody who's listening at home know that Kaaria Quash's film, Caught in the Net, is a fantastic film that looks at fishing in the Matura region, Toko, on that side of the island of Trinidad and Tobago, and it looks at the way that turtles get negatively affected by fishing practices, and also looks at some of the conservation efforts that groups are taking to protect our turtles, and goes into some of the different types of turtles that we have on the coast. So I definitely want you to check it out because it's a fantastic film, and we do apologize for the technical difficulties that we're having with Kaaria. And so we're just about out of time. I thank you guys so much for making time to chat with us. And again, congratulations on having your films be official selections of TTFF 21. Thank you to everybody in our audience for joining this Q&A. And don't forget that you can still catch all of these great films. That's Moss, Going Nowhere, Caught in the Net, Once More with Feeling. You can catch them all at ttfilmfestival.com. Just look for the calendar. right? And if you're hungry for more films after the festival, visit storyplay.tv.